Okay,
the case.
okay, that'll put me back to where pretty close to where I figured it should be.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Alright,
Weed and mosquito, you're also standalone. You're solid. You're way solid. And anything over 33% goes into your CIPs. And that can be used on capital expenditures in the future. Saved up, spent now, it's a nice savings account, is what it is. So, to the general fund, unless there's any more questions. Dave?
Just one, in working with Brandon, you don't give the departments a listing of their personnel costs at a frozen level so that they can plug it in. When you give them their budget sheet, it's blank. But Debbie always calculates that. You generally wait until you've made the decisions farther down the line. Would it be possible for Brandon to get, because it's about 80% of his cost, if wages were to be frozen on June 30th, that cost, and then he could be working on figuring out what those costs are as we talk increases. That piece of information is not available.
It is, and he can work with Debbie on that. So absolutely. But for today, what we're doing is we've kind of split the departments so that we can actually address everybody. And so really for today, we're discussing road, weed, mosquito, and general fund. Everyone else is more than welcome, but we didn't bring any information to specifically address public safety or solid waste. But that will be next week. And then we plan, at Brandon's request, to have a working meeting with public safety. So we certainly can address that, but again, talk to Debbie, she's got all that for you. So to the general fund, one of the things that we are going to do is implement, instead of a stick on those that did not save the 10%, carrot. So those departments within the general fund that did, we agreed to actually create, if there isn't one, a CIP for that particular department, and based on personnel, infill that. So full-time employees are 30 hours plus. For each employee over 30 hours, that department will get $100 into their CIP, for each part-time $50, and for each seasonal or temporary $25. Any increase in the valuation will go to reserves. We will reinstate the mills that were removed last year, and we will use PILT to bring that up to at least 10%. And those, again, will be in a protected account so that they are only used as reserves. So any questions on the general fund? Okay. What we also agreed to is some with HR. So we had some, HR is the contractor of the commission. So any complaints, any issues with HR need to come through the commission, and we address that. Unfortunately, that was not done this year, and we lost our HR in a very abrupt way. The new HR that we have is doing an exceptional job for us, but at double the cost. So in order, the abruptness of the Michelle Twiggery leaving us, we had some departments that were not adhering to HR. Most of you are, and were. But what we have done is, in order to get buy-in from all departments, every department is going to pay into the HR fund. And it's the same formula. Any employees that are $30, 30 hours or more per week, that department will pay $100 for the year for HR. Part-timers $50, seasonal and temporary is $25. And then the rest will be matched by PILT, by the commissioners. There will also be a fine. If you have an issue and you do not follow what HR says you shall do, you will be fined $250 from your department the first offense, $500 the second, $1,000 every one after that. So another decision that we made is the law library was excellently missed by the county attorney last year. So we are going to put that into the county attorney's budget, and we will fund that with PILT. It's about $3,000. So that will be an increase to that particular fund. Also with the general fund, anyone who didn't realize the revenue is gonna have to offset that in cuts to their expenses. So we have a couple of departments that have not been realizing the revenue that they have had in the past or said they would have this year. Those will be offset by cuts, unless they can realize that revenue. Let's see. And the rest of it is the other departments. So, any questions? Or further questions?
I have a question, just in regards to the fines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, does that money come out of the budget, or is that a personal fine?
No, budget.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're not looking to, we're looking to get buy-in, and we're looking for people to follow HR and the personnel policies. So no, it's not personal.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you for the question, because I think that's an important clarification.
So how much you want us to set aside for another 10% out of our budget again?
No, I think freezing is probably fine. I think it's going to take us probably a good couple of years to rebuild those reserves. Some departments need 33%, which is the maximum we can have. Public safety is a great example. Some of the general fund really doesn't need 33% in reserves, so getting that up to 20, a lot of counties are at 18, I feel really good about. We're at 0, essentially. We need to build that up. So, no, I don't think we haven't talked about that as a commission, so at this point the answer is no.
But how are you gonna build it up when everybody's spending that down to 0 on their budget if you don't give a goal?
Thank you. The valuation increase of 5% that we expect, that's pretty conservative. I think it'll be higher than that, but we do expect at least 5%. That's gonna totally go into reserves, period. And that's why there isn't an allowance to spend 5% more. It's all going into reserves. And that should be the same for public safety, district court, everybody. Well, district court is entitlement share, but general fund standalones like extension, that's the same for everybody. Also, we're going to infill that with PILT to get it to the 10%. It's about $149,000 from PILT. And so that'll go straight to the reserves, be set up in a closed-off account. The way that reserves should work is you don't spend them until July through November. So even if you do, that's still your first quarter expenditures. So that should actually wrap around to the end of the year. If you're using your reserves right, they travel from one year to the next in one bucket. We just have to get that bucket refilled so it can do the traveling. So probably for the next 2 years, it'll be a fairly tight expenditure budget. And any extra mills will go to reserves as well. Anything else? So basically your budgeting this year is easy. Same number, you guys have your bottom line, you do bottom line budgeting, keep the same number, and everything should be fine, I would think. And this is with an eye on COLA. We do not feel that it is the employees that should be bearing the brunt of tightening belts to realize these reserves. So the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index for the past year, is 2.1. What that means is the cost of living went up for employees last year by 2.1%. The COLA is actually to address that previous year, not the coming year, but the increase last year. The CPI is the starting point. Conventional wisdom is you take your COLA up a little bit from there. What we've been trying to do is bring our employees up. We had a presentation years ago from Val and Doug. It said we were in the bottom 10 counties in the state for salaries. We had major complaints last year about deputies' pay being so low. Well, those are not the people that should be bearing the brunt of us fixing our reserves. So why we would slash their COLA for last year's cost of living increases doesn't make any sense. why we would ditch our deputies doesn't make any sense. So that's why we're gonna be talking at noon about a starting point of 2.5% for COLA. With that 2% reduction in the budgets, actually you should still come out almost at a wash, if not even a little bit below from last year's numbers. 2% is easy to realize in savings, it's a pretty minute number. COLA is actually pretty minute as well when you look at the overall budgets. So. Any comments, questions? And Allison, this will come up with our next meeting, but the standalones, the reason we were able to borrow from you guys last year when we lost those mills, what we tried to do is make sure that public safety did not. So they were made whole, and we borrowed those lost 5 mills from extension, from fair, from health insurance, from the general fund, from search and rescue, from all of the standalones. We do have in our resolution approving the budget last year that we will make you whole. And the reason we were able to do that is because our standalone budgets are solid. You heard that about weed and mosquito, you heard that about road, it's true of extension, it's true of all the standalones. Really the problem is the general fund, because we're a family, when one person doesn't realize their revenue or overspends, it affects the entire general fund. And that's one of the reasons that we're having to get tight with that one. So we did try and get everybody removed from the general fund to create more standalones, and the auditor said that would work, but when Debbie pursued it, he said, no, it doesn't work. So it was a nice idea on paper, I guess. It'd be easiest for everybody if we could just separate the general fund into standalone budgets, but we can't. And you are all welcome to the County Compensation Board meeting if you would like to attend. Any questions or comments? And if you have concerns, argument, additions, ideas we haven't considered, you can talk to us one-on-one at any time as well. We're totally open to that. Well, I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
So I guess my question is, how are we gonna address the detention center not receiving prisoners and being 400,000 to 500,000 under budget? Is that this year or next year? That's the next
That would
year.
be next year. It's gonna be close this year to make our expected revenue.
Another thing that we need to, and I forgot about this, but it goes to what you're talking about, every budget has unforeseens. Just is what it is. It's not just you guys and your hardships right now, but it's every budget. So the legislature, for planning, raided the Land Information Act money. Well, that helped fund planning, and money's gone. So what do? We have to find money from somewhere else to support a department we're legally required to have. The Tax Appeal Board. The state used to pay not only for a Tax Appeal Board secretary, but also it paid the members to sit on that board for hearings. Half a day they're paid $45, a full day they're paid $90. Guess who's covering that now? Counties. Now, if the county decides we can't afford a Tax Appeal Board and somebody comes forward to challenge their taxes, they automatically win if we don't have a tax appeal board set up and are willing to spend that money to defend Department of Revenue's tax assessment. So if you have that as your stance, how many people do you think are going to challenge their taxes? All? So we have to fund the tax appeal board now. That's on the county. We have to find that money somewhere. Meals on Wheels. We knew a month ago that Meals on Wheels was not going to be funded. That's a life-saving program in this county for some of our seniors. What do we do as a commission? let people die, or do we find the money to make sure they get that one nutritious meal a day? We find the money to get them that one nutritious meal per day. Those are just some of the cuts that the legislature handed down to us. I'm not even talking about mental health, all the different cuts to DPHHS, which was absolutely sliced beyond muscle and bone into arteries. But we now have to find that in the budget. So, this reality, what's going on with Department of Corrections is a mess. What's going on with justice reform is a mess. And it's gonna hit us hard. But we've gotta be in this together, we've gotta tighten our belts, we've gotta find other sources of revenue other than what we have in the bucket right now. And, we can no longer, as a commission, put our eye on one department. We have a responsibility to the entire county's budget. I think the idea that Dave had on Monday, that we put together kind of a task force and work with DOC and the governor's office on this, I think is a good one. It hasn't been done yet, beyond just the discussions that Seth and myself and Wynn have had directly with the director. But if we had the entire team go in maybe and discuss this contract that we signed along with 2 other counties that nobody else signed, it's gotta count for something. But the thing is we cannot be defunding 4-H or senior services for the benefit of one other department. We can't do it. We've done it, and now we're sitting in a world of mess. We've gotta fix this mess, and, it's no longer just a philosophy question, it is a what's the bottom line question. What are we gonna do, Mike? I don't know. But we're gonna have to get together and start coming up with some solutions that don't include getting rid of some of the obligations we have. And
Or there aren't any prisoners out there that we can pick up other than Department of Corrections?
We hold Lewis and Clark counties, but and we were holding Yellowstone counties at some point too, but once Yellowstone County's Department of Correction inmates we were holding, once the state made that cut, Yellowstone County took back their Department of Correction because it freed up room in their jail. They need the revenue. We're not getting them from Flathead County either. And Lewis and Clark's was cut in about half as well because they lost their Department of Correction inmates, so they were able to keep more of their inmates there. They're not giving us the Department of Correction inmates in their jails like they used to give us.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
Brandon and I have been working on this for 3 days. The big hit to the county is gonna come in the fall of 2019. I mean, we get through this fiscal year, but that's not the end of it. Lewis and Clark County's gonna open up their new jail, they're estimating toward the end of 2019. Well, maybe it'll roll a few months, but when that happens, they'll not only pull all of their prisoners out of here, which is a huge chunk of the sheriff's budget, the prisoner budget, but they'll also take DOC away, the remnants of the DOC. They'll take a big chunk of that too, because DOC's gonna wanna keep prisoners closer to their probation officers. So I mean, this problem is substantial. And we're working on building the data for past months and years, and hopefully we'll have something you can look at that's concrete here in a few days. So we're going deep into it.
So I guess the question is if we gotta cut 400,000 to 500,000, where do we cut it at? You can't cut it in your detention people.
It's
So you're
gonna
gonna
be
have to cut
deputy sheriffs on the road. That's I don't know where else you can't operate on operations with the same amount of deputies if you cut that. So I would say, and I hate to even say this, but yes, it would be deputy sheriffs. And you're already a growing county, I don't know, I think, I mean, what the commission's gonna do is they're gonna do, but I'm a little worried about it. So,
Well, Win spoke not too long ago about going to eastern Montana and already having reached out to those already filled detention center counties about the pipelines coming through and the fact that there's going to be a whole lot of people needing a place to stay. That's the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that we need to continue. That could be a solution. The 400,000 to 500,000, when, last year when you guys budgeted for, I think it was 27 inmates the first time around,
34.
well, and then you raised it to 34. But that was only a difference of, I think it was 770 to 834.
It's-
So,
We were basically cut in half here, so that if your revenue is 800,000, that's where I'm coming up with the number, 6595 times 20 inmates, times 365 days in a year is $481,000. That's where I'm coming up with an estimate, it could be a little bit lower, it could be a little higher.
sure, and I
That's-
get that, but you're talking DOC, okay, so take DOC out of it. Wynn's out-of-the-box thinking is looking at eastern Montana county inmates coming here. So, you know, that could have a difference in that number that
It could,
at
but
least keeps you guys being able to plan on being afloat.
it could,
Again,
but
you do
that's-
need a bigger plan,
yeah,
but
but that's not a guarantee, that is
nothing's a guarantee
Yeah,
with
that-
any
that's if the
department, and that's what we were getting at.
That's if the pipeline doesn't get held up in court. That's if they're expecting, you know, I mean, that you're, that's a lot of ifs, man. I don't think you could comfortably say, we're gonna get this many inmates, or our jail's gonna be plumb full, and set a revenue and operations at the same. And I pray to God, I mean, that something happens, but we're banking on people making bad decisions, and sheriffs from across the state and their commission on how much money they're willing to spend to drive people across the state of Montana to hold them for who knows how long. And they have to be bad enough decisions to be housed for quite some time in our facility. And they go back and forth for court, so there's a lot of costs on their side. But yes, he is thinking out of the box, he's trying, he's having those meetings.
I would suggest this, Mike, we have half an hour, if you do want to, take this into a discussion with public safety, do we need to have everybody else here? They're welcome to stay, but as they were on the budget, or on the agenda, that would be
Yeah,
something
if they
to
have
at least
any,
give
if
them the
anybody else
option.
has anything, otherwise we can change, everybody knows where their boundaries are.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that once Dave and Brandon come up with some more solid figures, that you have a meeting with them rather than have every department
Yeah, I
head
think
sitting
that
in on
would be
it.
the best thing to do too. Any other departments got any concerns or anything?
If we address this now, and if we do it seriously now, there will be relatively little pain. If we continue to kick this can down the road, and if we do not address this as a whole, there will be magnificent pain not too long down the road. So we are in this together, and if we can all remember that we are one county, one community, we can make this work. That's the bottom line.
Well, I guess, so nobody else has anything, are we ready? Are we adjourned then, or
Yeah.
do you have more that you wanna go?
I just have one thing, this was left on my desk, I did share it with Corey, I do think it needs to be made just a part of the public record. And, what it is, it says on the front page, someone needs to have the county attorney address this hazard and public safety issue. This electric fence is a nuisance and a hindrance to the county's road crew's effort to properly maintain the county road. The road supervisor won't do anything, it has gone on for years. Why is this private landowner allowed to use the county road right of way for his own personal benefit? Isn't this official misconduct? MCA 45-7-401 subsection 1 question mark, and it's got some pictures. I'm just making this part of the public record, that's it. And it is Commissioner Salifka's property in question. So, just in the
Yeah, on these
interest of
roads,
transparency.
you know, the property owners, they pay tax right to the middle of the road. And these borrow pits, I put electric fence down through there, and I just take a couple horses there in the summertime. They eat it off, I take care of the weeds. And I always have, been doing that for a lot of people after, I've had this there for probably 23 years. And there, at the Macris, one time somebody, well, it was Obert brought it up.
No, it was not,
And
no.
it
was a
was,
matter,
and
no,
I
don't
was
you
too,
lie.
Okay,
Don't you lie, I did not bring it up, I was
Who
sitting in
lies
the
around here?
audience,
Anyway.
and I was listening to a
Tara
presentation
Dupay at the time,
with our
she
road
says
crew.
that, you couldn't have anything permanent out there. And there's nothing permanent, they're just steel posts that, I think everybody knows how electric fence is all it takes, and a wire. Some of it is, some parts of it I use that string, most time I have the wire right there. I don't know. When I do it, I just have the horses out there during the day, summer or evening, I kick them back in. Like I say, and another thing, anywhere close to buildings, it takes care of a fire hazard.
and I would
But
say
ain't-
that from Mackers, it ain't supposed to be there.
Now, see, this year, that we was there, and that, it was brought up again, and what she said is, she changed, before she said as long as it wasn't anything permanent, she says that, it can be, or she said to that commissioner, get a approach permit, she says, and get some money out of it.
Well, the thing is, that fence is, I went down and looked at the fence is in the road. And you got wooden posts driven on the end of it. The grading crew can't get their grader in there to pull the ditches up. And you complain about a culvert being packed, they can't get to it because you got a fence around it.
To get to that culvert, all I have to do is unhook that wire right there.
That's not their job.
No, I said, I would.
Well, the
And I don't know why
whole
they're
thing is,
gonna-
you're encroaching on the county's right of way. Yeah, and I've had people talk to me about conflicts with vehicles in there in the snow, people riding their horses by, they get freaked by the car, and then they jump into the fence. So now we got a kid laying in the ditch hurt, who's responsible for that?
I've never heard any of that before.
Well, I don't know that it hasn't I don't know that it's happened, but the scenario is there. Nobody, I don't know, you say everybody does it, I don't see any other fences out to the side of the road anywhere. And I don't have a problem, you wanna stake your horse to the fence and graze out there, that's fine, but I don't know why you need to run a fence all the way down there. I don't know why you don't just run out there and hay it. And it's not supposed to be in the county right away, it's in the rules.
Why did she say they, to get an approach permit?
I have no idea.
That's what she said this year. Before that time, she said it couldn't be anything permanent. In other words, so if a car run off the road, if there was something that it, like, just a little steel post that's in the ground or a wood one that would break off, you know.
Yeah, but you're still looking at, the car's not really off the road where you've got those fences at. Where you've got that wooden post on the one end is right out on the dirt. It's not back set in the barrel pit where you got room to get by, it's right out on the road.
I don't to check on that, I didn't know if there was, but.
That fence out there it's not legal and it shouldn't be done, especially by a county commissioner, because we're supposed to be setting an example, not, if that's the example, then I guess everybody can go fence out there and do whatever they want out there. That's my opinion on the thing. I guess, I have one other question. Corey, do we have a resolution or an ordinance against sprinklers on the roads? Cause I've already got 3 calls. Sprinkler season's coming up and they're gonna water the road.
I don't know if we have a resolution. There is a state law dealing with damage to roads by basically having water on the roads. It was written in the era of flood irrigation, but it would still probably apply. And that's an issue that came up my first year. We did write, I wrote a letter to a couple different landowners, and that they had pivots that were not adjusted right, and they were spraying on a county road. So we could do a resolution, and we could, you know, anybody that's got sprinklers on the roads, we just need to send them a letter, tell them they potentially, it can be both, it can be I think it's a civil issue, not a criminal, but it would still, they could be fined and have to pay the cost of repairing the road. But it is a law, it is a state law. Yeah.
Can we get, I guess I would ask the commission if we could take and get a quote of that law and put it in the paper.
Yeah, I can
So that
get-
we're not blindsiding people, but, you know, the road crew's complaining about it, neighbors are complaining about it.
Yep. Yep.
That's a good
Happy to
idea.
do that. And then as far as the deal with Commissioner Slivka, I got that and I called him and told him about it and asked him to remove the road, or asked him to remove the fence. I think you gotta remove that fence. It can't be, you know, it can't be, anything that's inside that boundary fence from the, if it's a state or if it's a federal fence along that borrow pit, has to be free from obstruction, because I mean, someone has a problem and they go off the road and they get all tangled up in a wire, you got problems, you got maintenance problems, you know, all the way around, so that needs to be removed. You know, I guess my question is why it came this way, you know, from some anonymous person to Commissioner Overt to me to Commissioner Slivka, rather than someone just directly go to him and say, hey, here's your fence, you need to move it. But regardless, you do need to remove that fence, Commissioner Slivka. And I mean, if you're not gonna, then we can just remove it and just be a big unnecessary fight. So I'll just ask if you could remove the fence.
Anybody else have anything else?
No.
If not, we will adjourn at 11:32.
Are we back here in half an hour?
We're
Back
gonna
at
be in the
noon for
commission's
compensation
office.
board.
Oh,
Yeah, because we have HR in here at the one-on-ones.